Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining again. We're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks for joining our second member webinar in the Fail-Proof series. I'll again just kind of quickly go over the logistics. So the logistics based on whatever device that you're using. There is a chat feature either to the right or to the bottom of your screen that you can use if you have some questions throughout the webinar. We'll save the Q&A till the very end, but if you have them, you can feel free just to put them as they come to mind. And we'll spend a little bit of time on that at the very end. If you lose connectivity, there's a play button that will kind of get you right back on track. So nothing that you can do. If you happen to get kicked off, you can just log right back in. So it's really simple to navigate through the webinar. So the series has been so much fun so far. We kicked it off last week and we were talking about the best grocery store products to buy. And I still hear from a lot of folks about that. I've actually been hearing a lot about that over the past week or so, about folks who either watched it live or caught the recording, and some are changing the breads that they buy. One mom said she just started buying the Ezekiel sprouted grain tortilla shells for the quesadillas that she was making, which was awesome, and she said her kids did really well making that adjustment. One member sent us a photo of her oil to see, okay, is this the right type of oil that I'm supposed to be using? So we talked a lot about oils last week and it was really good and really helpful. And we had another member who said she immediately went downstairs after watching the webinar to check the ingredients on her butter to make sure that it was the right one. So awesome. That's really what this was all about, and that is absolutely our goal. Because the biggest and easiest step we can take with healthy eating is just to buy higher quality ingredient products. And we're not talking about more expensive, we're just buying higher quality. And I wish that we had all this time to bake bread and to create everything from scratch and to make food art for our kids' plates. But the reality is that we don't. So if we're going to resort to buying products, which most of us do because we're crazy busy, then let's at least buy the best quality products that we can. Let's get away from all the added sugar, all of the dyes, the food coloring, and all the other harmful ingredients. So that was everything that we covered last week, and it was a jam-packed webinar. And if you want to go back and find the replay, you can actually find that in the Members Home dashboard within the meal planner. All right, so week 2 is a bit more tactical as we deep dive into how we really pull all of this off. But first, and as a result of last week's webinar on how dangerous sugar really is for our bodies, I actually invited a guest to join us. So our guest is a pediatrician, and she also leads a weight management clinic for children. And in fact, some of her patients are also members of Healthy Kids Inc. because we help them with the meal planning piece of it. We like to serve as the tool that helps families in the home. So as a result of it, many families are eating healthier at home, and the kids are getting involved and just having some really great successes as a result of both of those combined efforts. I also have a friend who is also a member of the meal planner as well, and she also works with kids who have GI issues. And this stuff is really serious and it's real, and it's no longer just dealing with kids that have constipation. I mean, they're now seeing kids that have fatty livers, that have failing livers, that are now developing diabetes, and they're now having to have discussions about gastric bypass for children. So our kids are now developing adult diseases, and we are becoming this product of the environment that we live in, which is the unhealthy foods that we're surrounded by. So I've asked Dr. Jeffrey if she would be a part of this just to kind of talk about what she sees. And, I've asked her to kind of dumb this down because I have a lot of just the basic questions. I want to know all about fatty liver, and I want to know what it's like and how do you avoid it. So she talks all about that. And you might be thinking, okay, this isn't an issue for my family. We're perfectly healthy. There's no weight problems. There's no nothing. But I want you to hear from Dr. Jeffrey, and then I'll tell you about my oh crap moment after watching this and just how easy it is to kind of get out of sync with what we eat. So we'll kick off about the first maybe 15 minutes or so of the webinar with this, but for now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jeffrey. Hi everyone. All right, I'm here with our guest for this week's series, Dr. Jamie Jeffrey, and couldn't wait to share this with you all. Dr. Jeffrey is a pediatric physician, and she's also leads a weight management clinic for children. And we thought it would be really helpful for her to come in and to talk a little bit about children's health and just some things that we should watch out for. And it's really appropriate as we talk about, in general, just grocery store foods to purchase, ways to meal plan, ways to organize your kitchen. It just ties in nicely with our whole theme for this series, for our Fail-Proof series. All right, so one of the things, Dr. Jeffrey and I, Healthy Kids Inc. and Keys for Healthy Kids, the two groups that we are both represent, actually recently partnered with the production team Fed Up. Fed Up was a documentary that was released back in April. Katie Couric was the co-producer of it, and we actually are providing a Fed Up documentary to every school in West Virginia, and we are super excited about that. And from that movie has really kind of sparked a lot of conversation about sugar and what sugar does to the body and just how harmful it is. So we're starting to have a lot of discussion with students even across our state about sugar and its effect. So we thought that would be a good tie-in for our discussion about, you know, if Dr. Jeffrey can just kind of almost dumb down what sugar is doing to our body. Because we can't see it, which is always the hardest part. We don't know.
You don't know, right. And that's one of the things I talk to my kids that come to Healthy Kids. I'm like, first of all, obesity is not an adjective. It's a disease state. But in our society, we like to use it as an adjective, and that's really not true. That's not the way it should be. One of the things in the Fed Up film that they talk about is TOFI. Thin outside, fat inside. So one of the things I tell the kids that are unfortunate enough to be heavy and have a weight problem, and all their siblings are not. Their siblings obviously eat the same foods they do, but they are of a normal weight, or like what I like to talk about instead of weight is the body mass index, because that gives us more of the health risk, okay? So if you would do a CAT scan of where those kids carry their fat or their adipose tissue. And so realize that when I talk about fat, I'm talking about the actual adipose tissue or the adipose cells. Adipose tissue equals fat tissue. Okay. That if you would do a CT scan, what we're looking for is what we call visceral fat. And visceral fat is the fat we kind of carry in between here and here, okay? And the visceral fat is the fat that is the intra-abdominal fat, and that's what we look at because that visceral fat is more of an active organ. It releases more inflammatory markers, and I won't go into those, but for those scientists out there, tumor necrosis, can't even say it, tumor necrosis factor and interleukins. So it is secreting all those inflammatory markers that causes the illness. And causes the sickness. So just because you're thin or have a normal body mass index doesn't equate to cardiovascular disease. Okay. And I'll say to you, you've known somebody that's had a heart attack that's overweight, and you know somebody that has a heart attack that's not overweight. Okay? So you can't see health. And that's what we like to talk about, is you can be thin on the outside and fat on the inside. So it's more about health and balance. Got it. So one of the things that we recommend in Healthy Kids is that we follow really two guidelines we use. We either use the MyPlate, okay, which I had a MyPlate here somewhere. Well, allow me to grab it. Woo, my little props. And this is MyPlate, okay? And MyPlate, the big take-home message here is that you want to make half of your plate fruits and vegetables. Okay? Yeah. And if you're still hungry, then you eat fruits and vegetables. What should you eat for your snacks? Yeah. Can you guess?
Fruits and vegetables.
Fruits and vegetables, right. So part of that is using the MyPlate and making half of your plate fruits and vegetables. And what happens when you make your plate fruits and vegetables is we want that to be real food. I think that in the wintertime, living in West Virginia, having frozen food now because it's flash frozen is just as good as having the real thing, right? Yeah. But the more food that we can eat that doesn't have a label on it, the better. And part of what the Fed Up movie is about, and what I've seen in my clinical practice, is about how that in the 1970s, we went on a low-fat kick. And unfortunately, instead of just eating low fat and still making healthy choices, what happened in the food industry is that they took out the fat and replaced it with sugar. So what makes food taste good is fat, salt, and sugar. Yeah. So if you take out the fat, you've got to add salt and sugar. Right. So it led to another gamut of problems. And I think that it's very confusing for families to know what to eat. Right. So that they hear about the sugar and they're like, okay, well, we'll replace it with sugar-free. Right. Sugar-free, right? Yeah. Still has artificial flavoring in it, okay? And if you get too much artificial flavoring, you're saving on the calories in your belly, but you're still getting the stimulation in your nerve tract that says, here comes sugar.
Right.
So even though it's artificial sugar, you're saving on calories, but you're not saving on that craving message.
Right. You still want more.
You still want more, and you still consume more.
Right.
So if you eat sugar within real food, you get other nutrients, your vitamins, minerals, namely fiber and protein.
Right.
And if you're getting the fiber and protein and you're eating it at the same time, it slows down that sugar absorption. So one of the things when I talk about sugar, I can't hardly even sit here, Mandy, and tell you about it with kind of acting it out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So one of the things I'm going to do, I have to have a door to doorknob so that you understand how insulin works.
Okay.
But essentially, my job, Dr. Jeffrey, is I'm a pediatrician. Insulin's job is it's the fat storing hormone. It's the energy storing hormone. So when you eat and your body breaks everything you eat down to fat and sugar, okay, that sugar, you eat the sugar, your body breaks everything down into sugar in your GI tract, okay? That sugar gets into the bloodstream either fast or slow, and that is how your body determines how much insulin to release from the pancreas, okay? And then insulin takes care of the sugar. Insulin is going to do one or two things. It's either going to use that sugar as energy in the muscle, or it's going to store it as fat. Okay. So if you give your body too much sugar at one time, it's going to use some of it as energy, and the rest of it's going to store as fat. Just like your car uses gas for energy. If you have a 20-gallon tank, and you go to fill up your gas tank, and you try to put in 50 gallons, what happens?
Yeah.
It overflows, right? Okay? So essentially all that overflow, your insulin turns directly into fat. So it's about the quantity of sugar that we eat at this one time. It's about the quality of sugar that we eat at one time. Okay? Those are the things that matter.
Got it.
Okay?
What about fatty liver? So what happens with a fatty liver? What
With the
causes-
fatty liver?
Yeah.
Okay. Did someone ask about it? It's just really funny that all of a sudden with kids, these adult diseases like fatty liver and diabetes that were once adult diseases are now happening in our kids. And you know, it's one of the reasons why I'm fed up. I know I'm on that fed up kick because we're doing that initiative, but that's what's making me fed up.
Yeah.
I've been a doctor for only over 20 years, and I was in a residency teaching clinic. And for me to be able to teach young doctors how to take care of this new generation of sick kids, I essentially had to go back to school. I didn't learn how to take care of type 2 diabetes in school, right? Because we didn't see it in pediatrics. Okay, as a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons I did go into pediatrics. Let me talk about a healthy diet, being active, your child's mental health, having a happy family. Let me talk about temper tantrums and bedwetting, not diabetes and fatty liver. But again, remember that visceral fat I talked about? Okay, so if you have visceral fat, which is insulin mediated, so when you having the sugar, your insulin goes up, that's insulin mediated, you store that between here and here, it's in here. What lives in here? Your liver. So essentially you get fatty displacement of normal liver cells. And a lot of that is associated with that visceral fat, and a lot of that is associated with, again, the quantity and quality of fat that we eat. And if we get too much of that, our liver is the organ that takes care of metabolizing that sugar into fat. So it is affected by that fatty infiltration.
So it could affect kids, and does.
It does. I have a handful of kids that have fatty liver.
Wow.
Yes, okay. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's just scary. It makes me angry, I guess, is the thing to say. And it's not the kid's fault. Right. Just our kids are a product of their food environment. So one of the things we have to get better on is changing that food environment. So have more fresh fruit and vegetables available in your home. Have a fruit bowl. Okay, not a snack drawer.
Right, right.
So your snack drawer should be right here, fresh fruits and vegetables.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's really
leaving them out.
Right. But I think as we've talked about in previous, webinars is malnourishment. I mean, that's what we're seeing right now. We're eating a lot, but we're not nourishing our bodies.
Well, that's overfed. That is overnourished Overfed and undernourished.
That's good.
Overfed and undernourished. And that is because of the quality, again, the quality of food that we're eating. So it goes to the quantity and the quality. And we unfortunately have a problem with both.
Yes.
In the past, malnutrition was due to lack of food. Okay? Now malnutrition manifests itself as childhood obesity.
Wow. That was great. Thank you so much. This was really helpful.
Okay. So if we want to go to a door, I can tell you all about insulin, and I just have to have a doorknob to tell you more about it and how it works.
That sounds perfect.
Okay. So here we are at our door, and on our door we have a doorknob. We're going to pretend like this door is a muscle cell, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to eat an apple. Now, when we eat an apple, we're eating the apple, so we're eating it slow. There's natural sugars in the apple, and there's fiber in the peel. So when we eat the apple, our blood sugar goes up slow and steady. Our insulin from our pancreas does exactly the same thing. It goes up slow and steady. And then insulin, so eat an apple, blood sugar goes up slow and steady. Insulin goes up slow and steady. Insulin is the key that unlocks the door that lets the blood sugar go inside the muscle to be used as energy. Again, just like your car uses gas. Now, what happens if you drink apple juice? If you drink apple juice is processed. Now they process it at high temperatures, so it essentially takes away all the fiber, and that's the good sugar and the quality sugar that we want, and then we add sugar to it. And it's those added sugars that now, because of the quality and quantity, it's going to make our blood sugar blimp up. So instead of going slow and steady, like when you eat an apple, our blood sugar is going to blimp up. Again, our insulin does the same thing. It blimps up. So our insulin, again, has two choices. It either uses that sugar as energy, or it turns the sugar that we eat into fat. So we eat apple juice, we got a blurp in our sugar, got a blurp in the insulin. Insulin comes over here, unlocks the door, lets some of the blood sugar into the cell, but all of it can't get in. It gets closed out. The sugar that's remaining gets stored by the liver directly into fat, right here. Insulin-mediated fat is visceral fat between here and here. Now, the other thing you can do is think about drinking a soda. And because of the high fructose corn syrup and the amount of added sugar in the sodas, instead of getting a little blip like you do with apple juice, you essentially get a big blip. I like to tell my kids in Healthy Kids Clinic that you kind of get a volcano explosion of that sugar, and your body can't handle all that at one time. Therefore, you're storing more of that sugared beverage as fat. So that's one of the first things that we do in 5-2-1-0 is we start with the zero sugared sweetened beverages. We want to eat our calories and sugar, not drink them. So instead of having apple juice or orange juice with your breakfast, have an apple and a glass of water. Have an orange and a glass of water. It's quite simple.
All right, so I hope that you enjoyed that. It was really good information, and this is always a little bit complicated stuff. Sometimes I have to see it, I have to hear it, and I even have to draw pictures to grasp all of this. But she really talked about a couple great things. We can't see health, which makes it really confusing for us. She talked about the TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside, and the overfed and undernourished, which were really, really great points, which takes me kind of back to my, uh-oh moment. And I think many of us probably have all these, but it happened to just be my oh no moment was over the weekend. It was a typical Saturday for us. And my son, my oldest, had started off his day with a bowl of cereal and whole milk, which is sometimes what we'll do on occasion. We were out running errands though, so this was early in I don't know what time that this was he would have eaten. Let's just say, for example, 8 o'clock though. And we were out running errands kind of in the latter part of the morning, and he really wanted a Subway sub. And we never really eat there. 2 of us are gluten-free, so we don't really go there. But he had asked for it, and I said, oh, okay, we'll do that. So we went to Subway. He got a foot-long sub on Italian bread with ham, cheese, and cucumbers. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm sure you're not going to eat the whole entire thing. Well, he did eat the entire thing, and he ate it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm sure that will hold him over until midnight, right? I mean, a whole foot-long sub. Well, that was at 11, and he was starving by 2. And he was getting ready for a basketball game, and he was hungry, so I made him a homemade pizza on just a flax tortilla shell, which held him over for the game, but by 5 p.m. he was starving. So coincidentally, we were going out to dinner that night, so he ended up eating a sushi roll, and then he got a white rice and chicken dinner. Holy cow, that seemed like a lot of food. I thought for sure that would hold him over until the next day. Oh no, he was starving by 8 o'clock. So, you can see on here, I mean, some would just say, oh, he's a growing boy. He played an hour of vigorous sports and he just worked up an appetite. No, there were no nutrients in his day, none. It was all carbs and starch, which convert to the sugar, like Dr. Jeffrey mentioned. He had 4 cucumber slices that were a part of his sandwich. That was it. So you can see what's happening with that trend where she said it's overfed and undernourished. And you can see just how easily that happens, with just our everyday environment and the foods that we eat. So the good news is, I mean, one day doesn't mean the end of health. 1 week doesn't either, but it is the daily that goes on for month after month that really has an impact. Actually a study just came out this week, and this is really great news for us. A study by Dr. Lustig, he's an expert in the industry, talks a lot about sugar. If you happen to watch the Fed Up film, he's also in that film as well. But the study was released where they monitored children, and these were children who were overweight, and they put them in a controlled study, and they were, for 10 days, only consumed foods without added sugar. Now, they still had breads, they still had starches, but no added sugar. So, for example, they would now have yogurt, but it would be plain yogurt with no added sugar. It might just be flavored with berries. Or maybe just a bagel, but no added sugar in the bread. So they did this for 10 days, and all of their health markers improved in just 10 days by no added sugar, which was incredible. So that was a great study that just shows that we can turn this around. And truly, and that's the whole basis of this webinar today, is it really comes down to our system and to our plan. It's our meal plan. Because if we plan to fail, we're gonna fail. If we fail to plan, we're gonna plan to fail. And here's why meal planning is so important, because there are 2 forces that really go into play. And this is this is kind of where the science comes into all of this. And the very first is called the what the heck effect. And we've talked about this a little bit before, but this has been studied many, many times. Take for example, when you start your day off with donuts. And I talk about donuts a lot because it's just one of those, donuts and coffee, if you're on in a rushed morning, I mean, it just kind of melts your heart sometimes, But there's something that happens when you start your day off with donuts, and it's called the what the heck effect. It's, oh, what the heck, I had donuts for breakfast. So it becomes lunchtime and you think, oh, okay, my day's kind of going downhill already. I've already had donuts, so what the heck, I might as well do hot dogs for lunch. So you do hot dogs for lunch, and then it's, oh, what the heck, I've already had donuts for breakfast. I've had hot dogs for lunch. This day is really going downhill, so I think I'll just do pizza for dinner. And I'll start eating healthy tomorrow. And that's how it goes. Day after day after day, it just becomes this what the heck effect that continues to take over. I mean, you can just kind of keep on pushing the can down the road a little bit further. And then the second force is even stronger than that, and that is willpower. Book after study has been written and published about willpower. We are fascinated with how this impacts our decisions. So here's how it is. Willpower is like a muscle, and it becomes fatigued the more that we have to use it. And our willpower actually diminishes as the day goes on. That's why most crimes are committed at night, most drug lapses are committed at night, most diet lapses are committed at night, and the reason for that is just our willpower is gone. We're fatigued. And in many cases, it's a result of decision fatigue. If you find that you are spending your entire day making decisions for everything, for everybody, the work you do, for your family, after time, you have decision fatigue. And that's what happens, and that's why our willpower goes away. And it gets to the point that at the end of the day, you can't even decide, you don't even want to talk about what's for dinner. You're spent, you're exhausted. We can't even choose what restaurant to eat at if we had to eat out. We just don't want to make another decision. You know, it's actually said that that's why presidents and politicians that have it all make that one dumb decision and they ruin everything. Or that why famous people who seem to have it all make that one decision that risks and they lose everything. Or maybe that's why your friend makes that goes on that spontaneous shopping spree, or spontaneously just buys a car, or goes out and buys a new purse. You know, we've just lost our willpower. And the truth is that most people use up all of their willpower at work, and they have very little left over for whenever they get home. And I think you all can probably understand that. Because the thing with your willpower, it's a finite supply. You wake up every morning, you only have a certain amount. That's it. Every day you only have a certain amount. And stress takes away from your willpower. You use the same willpower to deal with traffic in the morning, to deal with your food choices, to deal with your demanding boss, to deal with your annoying colleagues, to deal with your pouting children. It's all coming from that same supply. So you can see that as the day goes on, we're just spent. And that's why you'll always notice those impulse buys in the grocery store. You know, you see right at the checkout aisle is where all the candy and all the impulse buys are, because you have spent the entire grocery trip of an hour resisting everything, and it has totally taken from your willpower. So by the time you get to the checkout line, you're like, what the heck? I might as well just have a Snickers bar. And that's how it happens. So how can we still pull off healthy meals with these two strong forces working against us? And the truth is, we've got to use our systems. We've got to rely on our system and not our willpower. It is setting your week up so that you don't have to think. You don't have to wonder each morning if you'll have time for your own breakfast. It's accounted for. It's in the plan. It's on your shopping list. You don't have to wonder what's for dinner tonight. It's on the plan for the entire family to see. This is, and it's you've taken care of it. That's how we bypass using our willpower. That's the science part of it, why this system works so well. So for us personally, for our family, there are 2 meals a day that without fail, I've got to make sure I plan out, because I know where my weaknesses are. And it's breakfast and it's dinner. Those are my 2 really critical points, because breakfast, I know if I don't have a plan, I could easily give in to something much more unhealthy, because I know that's what I'd love to do. Nothing beats waking up to your morning and going through and getting donuts and coffee. So I've got to have a plan to make sure that doesn't happen. And then it's dinner, because I'm fatigued in the afternoon and I'm exhausted. Every day at 4 o'clock, do you know what comes through my mind? It's not just once a month. It's not just once a week. It is every single day at 4 p.m. like clockwork. I think about a takeout pizza. Every day. And it's just because I'm busy. I don't want to stop working. I don't really want to stop to have to cook, and so I think about it every day. Now, we don't do it, but I think about it. And the reason that we don't do it, though, is because I've set a plan and I've had to rely on the plan to keep me strong so that I don't give in, because I would so likely want to give in. So the plan is the meal planner, which all of you have had a chance to experience, but I wanted to show you how you can use this meal plan to really work to your advantage. And then I'll also show you some of our newest features as well. So bear with me for just a second. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out here. So give me a second while I do that. All right, so I am right now inside the Healthy Kids Meal Planner. This is the home page. This is what your home page looks like. So the best way to get started to kind of build your foolproof plan is just to go down here and do your Create a Week. I like to start here. Now we also have, your favorites that you've built over time are here as well. And you'll see one of our newer features too. We also have the featured week. So every week we kind of change it up to say, here are just some kind of featured dinners to be thinking about, and then a shopping list that populates accordingly. But let's just say, actually I was talking about this in the Facebook forum about the garlic and Parmesan orzo this pasta is just delicious though. But one of the newest features that we added is this great little quick button feature. So you can actually just from right here, if you just want to check it out and just click on and say, okay, I want to see what the ingredient list looks like for this. So it pops right up. Or if you say, okay, I want to see what the directions look like for this to see if it looks like it's too tough, and they just pop up. Or if you want to do a quick hit and see what the chef's video looks like, then it will pop right up as well. So we've got those new quick buttons. But you can also hit the calendar feature of one of these recipes, and that will also start your new Create a Custom week. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And it pre-fills to this Sunday, but the great thing is that once you're in here, you can move it to anywhere that you want. So I generally start my week then, and I start to kind of figure out what is going on for the week. So if we have, I'll just say, for example, I've got a work dinner at 7 p.m., and I'm gonna make sure I want to include that because I don't want to forget about it. And then Tuesday, maybe we have basketball at 6:30. Definitely don't want to forget about that. And then we might have basketball again. Basketball at 6:30 again. And now I've made sure to include all my evening events that we have are in the plan. Now from here, again, use your system to work for whatever you feel like is kind of the area that you need the most help with. So if you find that you're eating out a little more than you'd like and you definitely want to make sure you've got dinner planned, then be sure to do dinner. And for some families that are just starting out, they might find that they just need to plan 3 meals a week, that's about the most they can pull off, and that is perfect. Again, for us, I like to make sure breakfast and dinner is always taken care of. So all I'm gonna do then is just go over here to the meals, and these will all load for you. And you can see, your favorites all load. And then I'm just gonna start to just pull them over. I mean, truly this takes no time at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just look through all the recipes. I see whatever looks good. And truly that is it. And what you might not be able to see at this point though is just how, oh, I love this Philly cheesesteak pizza. That is truly one of our favorites. We have so much fun with that. And then right before our eyes, everything is already pre-populating with a shopping list. It makes it so super simple. And of course the organic notations here are already included, spinach being one of those that we always like to make sure, bell pepper, or a couple of tomatoes. So if tomatoes are on, tomatoes are on the Dirty Dozen. So we always like to make sure that your pasta sauce is also organic because it would include the tomatoes too. So all that is accounted for in your shopping list. So truly that's all that you have to do. Or if you want to strategize, so let's just say for example that you happen to have some leftover chicken. This is one of our newer features too that you can now just search all of our chicken recipes. So we have on here, let's just say if you wanted to do pasta with chicken and vegetable, all you have to do is just pull that over. Or if you have certain coupons, maybe you have coupons then for, I'll take this. I will take the cauliflower shrimp fried rice. Let's just say maybe you have a shrimp, a coupon for some seafood at your local grocery store. Then the Cajun shrimp and rice. We have members who love that one, but Cajun shrimp and rice is another good one that you can use as well. So you can use that search feature, which makes it really, really nice. And so this is all you do. You just build your plan. Make sure to name your custom week. So this one might be my crazy week, crazy week with work. Or we'll just call it Crazy Week with Sports, whatever it might be. So you're just gonna save it and then it's there for you to reference anytime that you want. You can go all out and have the entire meal plan created if you want. You can use our recipes, you can add your own if you like. You can add your own items to the shopping list. It's just that simple. Everything is also now mobile, so you can now quickly pull it up onto your phone as well. Especially love to see the shopping list on mobile. That looks really, really cool. So you can also pull that mobile item as well. But the great thing is that now all you have to do is just simply print and post it and be done with your meal plan. This is how you use the system to bypass willpower, which is critical for us. But I also want to show you one more really cool feature that is so much fun. So if you want to get crazy organized, because I don't know about you, but come 4 o'clock, when that dreaded question starts coming from every direction of, okay, Mom, what's for dinner tonight? One thing that you can do is to actually start to get a little bit more organized with it. So there are a couple of services out there, but I'll show you this one that I happen to really have a lot of fun with, and it's called Easy Texting. So this is a site you can go to. You actually can get 500 free text messages with this. So you could sign up, you could get 500, and that will get you through until we actually incorporate this feature ourselves. But for now, you could do this. So if you wanted to, when you create your own meal plan each week, you could actually sit down with that meal plan and schedule out text messages that would go to your children and your spouse for every day of the week, okay? So you can plug it in. I'll just kind of show you. Let's see here. So this might say dinner Thursday. All right, and so your message could be whatever. Tonight is veggie lasagna. Can the first person home preheat the oven to 450 and bake for 50 minutes. Let's see, basketball at 7 p.m. Love you all. All right, that's all that you have to do. Then you can schedule your delivery. So if this is perhaps for our dinner tomorrow, I want the email to go out right when I start to get bombarded with all the questions. Or maybe I even want it to go out at 3:30 because the first person home, I want them thinking about it. And truly that's it. You hit continue, it keys up the message, and you could do this for all of your dinners just to get everybody on the same page. And you can divvy out duties this way. It's a great way to get your older kids involved too, in the process of just, meal prep and planning and getting dinners together. Because the great thing now is that, kids can even now get involved in the process. Because now that you've set the plan, the kids can now just go and cook right along with the chef and help you out with dinner now too, which is really, really awesome. So, all right, I'm going to go back to our webinar. So give me just one moment. All right. So the idea is to let your system work for you. I mean, it's the fail-proof way to ensure that we're eating healthy. And I know that you might be saying, oh, I'm way, way too busy for this. But if you're way too busy, then that's exactly who needs this, because we can't afford not to do it. We've got to do this. It's funny, we actually recently launched a survey. The survey went to moms across the country, and we wanted to ask them, we said, what would be the outcome that would make you the most happy with your healthy eating efforts? And we really expected them to say for sure they'd love to have their picky eater issues to go away. They would love to have a healthier weight. I mean, yes, all those hit. But unanimously across the board, across all ages, across all incomes, and all parts of the country, unanimous on the list, the number one was they wanted more fruit and vegetable consumption in their home. That's what we want. So we know what we need. Sometimes we just need those tools that can kind of help us to connect the dots. And this is how we do it. I mean, this is how we pull off these healthy meals despite our hectic schedule. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this. I'm going to stop presenting. I'm going to go back to the live webinar real quick. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to go to the chat section. Hit me up with any questions, or you can always email me too. But if you like this, and if you happen to be just a bit excited over even those text messages, which I tell you, that just lights up my brain thinking about that and just that whole organization, then you're gonna absolutely love next week's webinar, which is the last webinar in our series. And that's where we are actually bringing one of our very good friends, one of our lifelong members of Healthy Kids Inc., but she's also a professional organizer, onto the webinar. And we're going to talk all about organization, because that truly is key. If you can tackle that final step, that's how we make it fail-proof. And what we'll be talking about is, how do you organize your refrigerator for the week? How do you organize your pantry? Like, what are some things that you should have on your counter at all times, and what are some things that you shouldn't? And there have been a lot of studies actually released about that very recently, about what that does to the family's health just based on the foods that you keep on your kitchen counter. So we'll be talking about all of those, and again, the science behind much of it, but you'll just be super inspired and super organized and just love this whole session where we talk about organization. So it's the perfect end to this series, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed it so far. So we have talked about all the right grocery store products to buy. Then today we talked about all the tactical stuff. This is truly how you get your willpower out of the way and you start just using your system and let your system work for you, so you don't even have to think at the end of the day. And then we'll be talking about the organization piece, and let your organization and your system work for you to make the whole process so much simpler. So that is it. I will take just a second to see if we have any questions. And if not, then again, and if anything comes to mind, again, you all feel free to reach out to me anytime. But thank you guys so much for being on the webinar. This was an awful lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we will talk to you all again next week. Take care. Bye, everybody.